Big Sky Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio, coming to you from the top of the continent, where we had the Top of the Continent expedition, and bringing to you one of the expeditioneers who journeyed far from his lands deep in New Mexico and flew up on Cave Force One to be here and help us go run around in the land of the giants up in the top of the mountains, middle of the Sapphire Mountain Range, and see all the fun stuff we could find. And we found some fun stuff. And so to tell you his part of the story and then bring you up to date on what's been happening down there in New Mexico, we're once again extremely honored to have with us Randy Caveman Yazzie. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Hey, man. What's going on?
Great to have you, brother. I know it's been a while, but we gotta get everybody up to date on everything that happened up there in the old expedition. I got a couple pieces of video to run that I'll be running during the show here, where we were sitting around the campfire having a little campfire chat. So at the appropriate part of the story, I'll let everybody hear a little bit of that, and we're all just me, Kevin, Caveman, and the other people there sitting around by the campfire talking, telling Bigfoot stories. It's not very long, so don't worry, you guys won't get bored. But anyway. Just wondering if you could, you know the drill now. You've been on here a bunch of times. Tell everybody what your experience was like flying up here and then going to Coloma and then from there up to the Sapphire Mountains up there.
Well, dude, nothing happened. Oh, shit. Well,
you flew on a plane. That's not usual.
Yeah, I took off from Durango, Colorado, which is about probably 80 miles from where I live, and it was an itty bitty plane, one of those CC planes, and I think it was a 12-seater or something like that, and just then, there was some clouds that were rolling in, and we had a bumpy ride all the way into Denver.
That's what you were saying. You had bumpy air until you got to the end of the shuttle flight and you got on an actual jet.
Yeah, shoot, I probably scraped off all the silver that was on that seat. You're going sideways and up and down and all that through the clouds. I'm like, damn, these clouds supposed to be puffy, but it doesn't feel like it when you're in that itty bitty plane,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you get those crazy air wind currents over the mountains too. So that's another problem trying to fly with a small plane over.
Yeah, that's what I noticed, and it was what I experienced too, and. I had my eyes closed, and I kept thinking, "Hey, man, you're a man. You're a man. You're supposed to be on the ground, not up in the air like the birds, So, and then another thought that I had through my mind was like, "Shit, man, what if the engine conked out right now, and we're on top of the mountains? We flew down, and we crashed out in the mountains." That's the second one that really scared me. I just scared myself like that. So
if you survived the crash, at least the good part of it would be it'd be the summer.
Yeah, and then we got to Denver, and I guess the flight line that was there was a long one. Flying in with all the other big jets. And so, we landed. I was relieved. We landed, and then we started trailing. We just like. I asked another passenger that was on the side. So I asked her, and I was like, "Hey, man, being on this flight line, it just seems like we just ended up back in Durango. That's how long it was." So that. Finally, we got to where the outlet was, and we got off, and I was like, damn. I just touched the ground and said, "Hey, man, I don't need to go through this. Should I just turn around right here?" So
no, I just went through that. I don't want to go back that direction.
Yeah. I was looking around to see if there was any other plane that that was, an itty bitty plane that was going to Montana. I was like, hell no, I ain't going on that one. But I went through the terminal, and it just so happens that I was on. They call it the A concourse, and I guess there was a B and a C, and I had to end up at the C or something like that. So I had to go all the way through the terminal from where we got in. We walked in, and then I asked about it. Said, "Hey, I'm going to Montana. Where's the terminal that I gave him the number and all of that, and then they said, "Well, you go way out there, make a right there. You go down the stairs, and then you make another left, and then you go through this door, and then you make another right. Then there's a subway that goes back and forth." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you guys don't have no, don't really tell no good directions." So I left and just started really walking fast. But it took me 30 minutes to go through the whole thing trying to look for it. But finally, when I got there, I was relieved when I saw a bigger jet. I think it was a 737 or something like that. And I said, I got there, and see, I had to be there within about 30 minutes. So the time changed.
Yeah, you barely made it there on time then.
Yeah. So the time changed, helped me. And then I went back up. I got in line, and I was right into economy. So, I was just like, I was the last one to get in. And, it was okay. This one guy wanted to change seats with me, and then I got up to sit up where, close to the first class ones. And he changed seats with me. And it was an okay ride. And
yeah, you get up with the bigger planes, they're not so bad. I've been up in planes with air turbulence before too, and it's yeah.
I mean, I've been through the military, and I've rode into planes and where they made real hard cuts and all of that. But this that was what, about way back 1,000 years ago. So I just I had lost all feeling of getting on the plane and all, and so I just I went on there, but there was only one part. I'd say maybe somewhere between Denver and Montana. Let's just say Wyoming or something like that. There was a rainstorm. There was a little turbulence again right there, and I was holding on too, and it was all dark, and I could see the lightning on both sides of the plane, and that I started thinking, like, what if we got struck by lightning now?
Yeah.
So all the bad stuff I was thinking about. So then finally made it, and walked through the terminal there, and I just called. Who did I call? I called you, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I walked outside, and I could immediately feel, the difference in climate. I came from a hot area, and then here it was kind of cool, and so I waited outside. I was relieved.
I'm on the ground and it's not hot. Cool.
Yeah. And so I waited out there, and all of a sudden these strange people pulled up to me, which was like Kat and Kevin and Kakalaki. Kakalana. I said, well,
North Carolina. Kakalaki's from North Carolina.
Yeah, that's why, I said that, and I was like, hey, everybody was introducing themselves right there first, and they're all hugging, and I was relieved, and I jumped in, and they told me, we're going out to to Duke's house, and I was like, okay, let's see where that hermit is living at. So I just
They drove on
stopped.
up to the Bel Air section of Missoula.
Yep, and here, all in the suburbs,
Yeah.
and here. That's when they were introducing themselves, and that's when Kakalaki says, I'm from North Carolina. And I was like, oh, that's not the way to say it if you're from North Carolina. I said, because I've been to Camp Lejeune, so
Right.
they always, over there they had this they pronounced it different. So that's what I said,
North
So isn't this
Kakalaki.
no, yeah, I said North Carolina. I said no, then he started laughing. That's where he picked up his name. Everybody started calling him that from there. So, that they're all, we just, banded together, just like, cool brothers and sisters. So we just went over there, got to the house, and I was like, hey, where's the castle? So we drove in and got there, got to meet you. I was looking for a fine cut person, and out walks this shaggy guy,
Yeah.
So I felt at home, though.
I look totally normal in like barbarian outfit with battle axe in hand. Don't fit in with the 21st century very well, but I look totally normal with like a Conan outfit or something.
Yeah. So, I was sleepy too. So, damn, I just fell asleep. She noticed. After we took them pictures, and I was out.
Oh, that's what I figured. You had a long damn day. You had a long drive just getting to the airport, and then you had 2 flights to get here. So
Yeah,
you were exhausted.
it was all day.
Yep. Well, and then after lots of delays, we finally all got our act together and multiple shuttle rides. You guys went up first, and then I had to wait for one of the later people and go up with Michael. And Shane was the last one to show up. He was even later.
Yeah.
So we finally got up there, and by the time I got up there, you guys had already gotten up there and met Brent and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, we met Brent up there, and he came around, told some stories, and he was I think he was just flabbergasted that of my stories. And when I told him that I walked into one and by mistake, and his eyes grew real big. Like, what?
And we'll be hearing about that in part 2.
Yeah. So told him about that, and his buddy too. And they're just out there walking around, and they scoped out the area too, and they told us that they were gonna do a live video there. And then they told, they said when we're done with the video, we'll come back to you guys. So I said, okay, it don't matter. I'm just out here, wanting to see, whatever we needed to see. But Eric started looking around, and we sat by the fire. Me and Kevin and Kakalaki and Kat, they went out to get more stuff, and we waited around. That's when you guys all started coming in. All of a sudden, the whole flood of people started coming in.
Yeah, the Hell and the Boys showed up, and then me and Michael showed up, and then what? Kat and Kakalaki came back, and then
Shane.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Well, Galen wasn't there. I didn't. Well, I didn't see him until the next morning. He was asleep in the car. Like, hey, we had a lot of room in that tent. Me and Kevin, kept teasing each other. Hey, you keep on that side. Don't be, having ideas that way coming this way.
Don't be hogging all the room. Yeah, you got to get up and take like 5 running steps to get to the other side of the tent. It's so huge.
Yeah. So we were just teasing each other there. And then we just did that, and then finally, after sitting around the fire, for a little while, and just went. What was it? Yeah, we were just sitting around the fire, just It was getting cold for me because it was still hot down here when I left, but it was getting cold up in the mountains.
Oh yeah.
And here, all of a sudden, people just crowded around, getting, hey, let's tell some stories,
Yeah.
And
Kevin we got some of that recorded. We'll show some of that. And go ahead.
Kevin told his stories, and I think it's Kakalaki that told his stories. And of course, when it came to me, I couldn't stop, because I had all those stories. So
in your backyard there.
One of the areas that I when I lived in Springfield that I went to was right in town, a greenbelt through town that had sidewalk and benches all along it. Mm-hmm. And at night, at the greenbelt, actually there's, where all of that, where the walking path and everything is, the forest actually goes way out. They can get out of town into the actual forest real easy, but right there in town, I mean, you're still in the city limits, and way in the city limits. But I mean, you don't have to go a million miles out into the wilderness like this. I could walk across town and get right to them.
There's a researcher over in Sweden that's documenting that right now, where there's a greenway in between these two little towns, and there's a big forest on one side, and there's frickin' markers where they're using this greenway in between the two towns, and apparently going through there at night, and they got fucking markers that they've been setting up in there. And he's just like boggling his mind. This is the same thing you're finding in North America, and it's in a greenway over here in Sweden.
Have you heard any stories from New Hampshire? Because it's like that, because it's so populated there. They still find a way.
Yeah. Well, they're good at sneaking and hiding. Caveman will vouch for that. They got nothing to sneak and hide behind over there where he's at, and they still do it.
They'll hide behind bushes about that small too.
Yep.
They think they're hiding behind those bushes.
Well, some of them are better than others.
That one big male was in just grass that was knee high, and it wasn't thick grass either. And we never saw him. They saw it. The people that were watching the live stream sure did, though.
Yeah, and how long ago was that? And now here it is. We just show it the other night, and Caveman goes, "Oh, there's another one."
I guarantee you, if he goes through all of them, he'll find more.
Yeah, so we backed it up and looked at it a couple times, but no shit, there's the head popping up and going back down again.
And he said, "Go back. There was one right there." 10 seconds before the big one, there's another one. The head pops up from the log 10 seconds before the one in the grass. But those cables and those platform things are fairly recent. It does.
I mean, you see all these rocks, and I just it might have been a native habitat.
Probably.
Wide trees.
I'm going to have to turn and go back here pretty soon. We are quite a ways from the car. Yep. Oh, is that the bark that acts like antifreeze?
Every once in a while, I get a scent of like a skunk.
Yeah, that's
It's really faint. Yep. You've got that too? Yep. Okay. Let me get it. Well,
snake apes.
for me, I guess I don't know how you would take it. I have a lot of scary encounters before, and this is just one of them. There was this chicken thief that my grandma was complaining about, and she had a lot of chickens, and a lot of chickens were being stolen somehow. And I used to herd sheep for my grandma down to the south. They're on that side. That's where I live now. But I would go down there, just be herding sheep all the time down there on my horse. And one evening, as I was bringing the sheep back up to on top of the mesa, I saw the chicken thief, and it was a skunk. And
Not a skunk ape.
no,
Just a
not
skunk.
the skunk, just a skunk. That skunk had a chicken in his mouth and really booking it the other way as I was going up north, and it was going down south. And so I turned around and said, I'm going to be, my grandma's going to be proud of me. So I started to chase it, and I was throwing rocks at it and trying to run over it with the horse. And all that time it would just stop and go like this. I didn't know what it was. And then it would just do that. And I would run over it. And all this time I guess it had been spraying on me. And I started to smell like burnt rubber. Really didn't know what it was, but now I can tell. But at the time it just smelled like burnt rubber. And I just kept doing it, kept trying to kill it, and kept trying to kill it. Then finally my horse just like gave up, like, I don't want to smell this no more.
You're torturing me.
And I left it outside. I bet you it was stoned or something like that, because he just stood right there. And I got off and I started, throwing rocks at it. And the chicken, he let go of the chicken way back there, and I was really, throwing rocks at it. And it just so happens there's a little hill that thunders out like that, and there's another, a big one on this side, but this one was small, and we were having our battle right in there. And then all of a sudden, while I was doing that, I was herding the sheep when it was about, 3 fingers, the sun was about three fingers up. And it got dark, the moon came up, and I was still trying to kill it. And then that skunk, I was starting to win, because that skunk would fall over, and then I'd still be hitting it with rocks. All of a sudden, in the moonlight, a black man runs out and goes to where the skunk is and picks it up and just crunches it on his head. And I'm standing from here to where Dan is sitting.
Oh my God.
Right there. And it just sat down. And the only thing that's lighting up the area is the moon. And I thought it was a black man, like George Jefferson. And I stood there, and I was just looking at it. And like, damn it, I was my fun ended right there. And then I turned around, wanted to get back on my horse. My horse was booking it up towards the hill, the mesa. And I just started walking. And I got up to that big hill, the big fingering hill. I got up on top, I looked back, and it's still sitting there, really chomping down on the skunk. And I was thinking, who would do that? And
Not George Jefferson.
and here I started throwing rocks at it, these rocks were just small. Just kept throwing it. Every time I threw the rock, then it would just go like this. And I knew I was hitting it because you hear the sound, the thump sound. And it would just sit there, just eating it. And I walked all the way back to my house, not knowing. And then I walked in the house. My horse was there, just, I guess, still stoned, and we just trotted back to the house. And I walked back inside the house. We call it hogan, the round houses that we had. And my grandma, my grandpa, they were sitting, I guess they were waiting for me. And my grandpa says, "Whew, here, go back outside, boy." He said,
Boy, you smell.
and so my grandma said the same thing. So I stopped and went back
Go get the
outside.
tomato juice.
And then my grandma brings out a real big pan of water, brings out that real big bucket. And then tells me, strip down. So I stripped down and started pouring Pine Sol and Clorox
On you or your clothes?
on me, powder soap and all of that.
Yeah, they just burned the clothes.
And and all of that. So she took the clothes away and then just burned it. She washed me, but I guess I still smelled like a skunk. So she rolled me up in the while I was still in the pan. She goes, "Where were you?" I said, "I was down there. I caught the chicken thief and I was killing it." And this black guy ran out from the hill on the other side, sat down right there, right in front of me, and took a bite out of that skunk. And then she just, grabbed me.
No.
Never go down there at night. And she goes, "Never go down there." And then she goes, right now, she wiped me down and rolled me up like a burrito. And, I was just laying there, in one position all night long. But I went to sleep. And I heard her telling my grandpa, about what I had said down there, the black man and all that. And then my grandpa says, "Well, I'll check it out tomorrow." He says. So all this time, I never knew that that was a Bigfoot that just came right outside. As a little boy, 10 years old.
Was that you were 10?
Yeah, 10 years old. A Bigfoot runs out there right in front of me and takes a bite out of skunk. And I never knew that. I never knew that it was like, I don't know how long it's been looking at me or if it was tracking me. I never knew that. So, these things reoccur in my mind all the time. All, what could have happened, all of that. And that's, I don't know how you would take it, but I would like that. And then the one that really kind of like...
Can you aim that at me a little bit more?
Really,
He needs the
I would say...
Do what? I'm
Can you
sorry.
aim that a little bit
Yeah,
more
yeah.
towards me, please?
Some of them, I always think too, did I really go through all of this too? Sometimes I think that through all my stories and all my experiences and encounters that I had. But I told it as best I could. And, just really, I guess I've seen some eyebrows raised and wow and stuff like that. But for me, it was like, I was just getting used to all the encounters that I had. I got used to it now, so they'd be banging on the window like, "What the hell you want now?"
Yeah. You got a
Yeah,
bug in you all the time where you're living, though. I don't, so I'm not. I don't
Yeah.
like telling my encounters all back to back. I get PTSD all over again.
Yeah. Sometimes that just gets you. I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm a tough person or anything like that, but sometimes they still scare me.
Yeah,
When
well, they
they're-
still scare me, too. Anybody with common sense should be a little bit alarmed when they're around.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like the what if, that kind of thing. No ifs, ands, or buts, but there's, what if this happened? What if it just came out, ran at me, and just ate me, tore me to pieces and stuff like that? But, when I see one of them, I just, let them know that I'm there too. And that's why, the old folks, they used to say, you always make noise if you're going in the place where you don't know, a new place. And it's like you can't see all over. You just make some noise first.
Yeah.
That way you don't startle any bears or anything. They'll come out at you or something like that. But that's what we are told down here. As being youngsters, always make noises in unfamiliar territory before you go into an unknown part. So that's how I perceive just about everything, even around my house, or if I go down to the Chaco Wash, which is on the south side of me, or even the San Juan River, which is the north side of me. So if I go down into the wooded area, that I usually make noise. I usually let out a bark or say something, but I don't say anything in my language because I don't want to hear it back. I've heard it once, said them having saying my name, so I don't want to hear it back. So I keep it at that.
Yeah.
But for up there, that's what I was listening out for. There was that one call that was made, and I asked Kevin, "Who the hell is that?" And
Oh, you're jumping ahead of the story now. We're still at Coloma. So the night at Coloma, actually, Travis saw one. And did you hear the other vehicle that pulled up in the valley? That valley over there where the shack is.
No, I just seen some lights that way. I thought, we were just.
According to the
there
other
with
two
me.
guys, they took a look, and there was a young couple that had like a VW van or something like that, some kind of little camper rig, and they were just camped over there in that valley. And while Travis was looking down from the side of the hunting shack up there, he could see something popping up and ducking down in the little bit of light that thing was throwing from where they were at, and it was apparently looking at them.
Yeah.
So then 4:00 in the morning, they peeled rubber out of there, shooting gravel and bombing their way up the wash to get out of that little valley, apparently in something of a hurry. So you can kind of guess what may have happened there.
Yeah, that's what I just heard that, I didn't really think nothing of it. I just heard somebody just shifting gears big time.
Yep, that's what it was. It was it was the two camper people over in that valley that we won't even camp in, bombing their way up that dry wash at 4:00 in the morning. Get out of there in a real hurry for some reason.
Yeah.
No, apparently Kevin went for a little walk, and he may have actually seen something too, but I haven't had him on the show to talk about it yet. So I know Mike heard something early in the morning, just shortly before dawn when he got up. And we already had him on to talk about that. And then we got up and we went and we're sitting underneath the tarp having coffee. And all of a sudden, a rock came flying from the top of that rock pile and hit Kevin's tent.
Yeah.
Did you see that, or did you just hear it? Or
I just heard it. Yeah, I just heard it, but
because I heard it too, my back was to it. Travis was actually looking in that direction and got to see it.
I just heard it and then just said, "Hey, we got a visitor," like I always say.
Yeah. Well, Kevin thought somebody had walked by and smacked his tent. He didn't realize till afterwards when we told him that, dude, there was nobody over there. We saw a rock go flying from the embankment up there and hit your tent.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Sometimes, I would gaff it off, like, if I see a rock being thrown or something like that, be like, oh, somebody's throwing rocks. And don't think nothing of it. But then afterwards be like, who would be doing that? And then when I kind of cautiously approach where it came from, there'll be nobody.
Yeah.
And
you
that's
know
all
what it is. It's those
Yeah, I
darn
know.
boulder grizzlies.
Yeah.
Because it can't be Bigfoot. That's all just imaginary. It had to be boulder grizzlies. They're the things that throw
Yep.
rocks and acorns and logs and that kind of
Or
stuff.
maybe the billy goat gruff, you
The
know.
billy goat gruff. It's a troll that eats the billy goat gruff.
Yeah. So yeah, so I started walking out, you know, and the time when well, I should back up. The evening when we were walking around, there was that little shack that you led me to, and then you went around, and then you took off after Brent and all of that. I was standing there. You know, you kind of get the feeling that, you know, something's around or something's looking at you, all of that. And that's, you know, sometimes I fooled them. That's what I kind of noticed that I do, you know, I fooled them as to where, you know, they give out their location, but there's, you know, little ways down where that shack was, the first one that we went to, and you make the right, and then you went up to Brent. I stood there for a little while, and then I was looking around. Then I sat in that little hallway that was built right there, right next to that shack. And I was like, hey, you know, this is a trailway right here.
Uh-huh.
And I was sitting right there, and then all of a sudden I felt like, you know, there's some presence. Whoa. And then that's when I heard like somebody backing off. And I looked around and said, Duke. And nobody. And then nothing. And then I called out Kevin. You know, just that normal voice. Nothing. And then I stood up, shook the trees, and then walked off. And more or less they would do that too, to let you know if their presence also, you know, if they're walking off.
Yeah.
So that's intentional. It's not like, you know, they're just crashing through clumsily. They're, you know, they shake the trees or whatever. They'll let you know. Maybe, you know, us natives we get that also. You know, before we went to like I said, unfamiliar territory, we make noise. Maybe we got that from them. So
it's a mutual respect thing. That way you don't wander into them. It's the same thing if you're in an area where there's like grizzlies or something. Make some noise so they know you're there, and you don't just walk into a thicket and bump nose to nose into one.
Yeah. And here, you know, I walked back, you know, just normally. And as I was walking back, I was looking way across the cliffs. And that's where I noticed that big X that was way out there. And, you know, went back to the main camp area, and we just, you know, sat around the fire, or I sat around the fire. So, you know, they're investigating what's going on. You know, a bunch of these people that don't belong here are up here again. That's probably what they thought, you know.
Yeah. Only this time there's really a lot of them, and they're all wandering around randomly, and we can't keep track of all of them.
Yeah, it's like, which one do we scare, you know?
Yeah, well, which one are we supposed to be watching? They're all wandering in random directions. See, that's a real problem for their sentinels. Like, there's a dozen people up there, and they're all wandering around in different places.
Yeah.
They were extra busy. Yeah.
Some looking for ghosts, and some looking for what else, you know, whatever's out there.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the following day when we weren't there, because we took off about midday, and as we were going down the mountain, Brent and Dan were coming up in their vehicle. They did some more videos and stuff up there. And one thing that I'm taking a look at is during one of their ghost sessions where they were sitting, you know, near that area where we were camped. Brent just kind of did a little pan around with his camera, and it looked like there was something between two of the trees on top of that rock pile that ducked down when he swept across the area with his camera. So I'm actually taking a closer look at that right now to see what, if anything, we can ascertain from taking a look at it. Whatever it was pretty good size, and it does look like something actually moved, like shifted position. So I have to take a closer look.
Yeah, that's kind of like in the general area where I'm talking about.
Yep. Yeah. Well, when I was coming back from the live stream walk that Brent was doing, we were coming back down into that bowl where we were camped there, and as we were coming down, we heard a shower of rocks go cascading down the side of that rock pile. And Brent goes, "Did you hear that? Is somebody up there?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Still don't know. I don't know if there was somebody from our camp up there, if there was Bigfoot up there, or if there was some other animal up there, or what there was. But
I'm telling you, it's the billy goat gruff.
it's a troll that eats the billy goats. That's why you don't see the billy goats.
Yep.
So anyway, after we had coffee the next morning and we had the rock throwing incident, we loaded up and took off for the long drive over to the Sapphire Mountains. And then there was some unscheduled sightseeing along the way. And finally we got to where the campsites were, and by then people had taken all of them. So we kind of got stuck on this one that I had never scouted before, which as it turned out was sort of good and bad, because it was good, we could fit everybody there. It was near sort of the area we wanted to be in. It was bad because it was right at the juncture of 3 mountain valleys, right in the middle of the mountain range, right in the middle of the greenway that runs down the middle of the mountain range, sort of diagonally. And it was extremely active. Wasn't a friendly atmosphere like the other campsite that we used to go to. This one was kind of creepy. And when we all got there, we had to leave most of the guys to set up. Me and Shane had to make a ride into Hamilton, like 20 miles away, and get some more meds and stuff for cooking and whatnot, and get back again. And while we were doing that, you guys already had stuff happening while you were setting up camp.
Yeah, I was inside the tent, and I heard somebody barking. Oh, okay. Kind of reminded me about that story I was telling. There's these Husteens that were sitting I'd say about maybe an eighth of a mile on the main road, dirt road, and they're mimicking my dogs as they're barking, rah, 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 saying that, and then making fun of my dogs. Anyway, it kind of reminded me of that. And as I walked up, those guys were just, all quiet, just listening to it. And so, me being me, it's this, you have to establish your presence there. And I yelled out, and it did 2 more barks after that. And first thing I asked for, was Galen. Where's Galen with his dog? And it come to find out they were way down below. So the sound was coming from
way up on that ridge across the river from camp.
Yeah, all but in the parallel of the same place where Galen and his dog was. So apparently, that's this Hosteen had seen the dog.
God, that's creepy. It just makes me wonder if it was trying to draw the dog into the woods right away to get rid of it.
No, what it was doing was mimicking, just to make fun of it, just to make it respond back.
Yeah, I hope that's what it was doing.
And that's what it was, And then when I yelled out, that's when it barked a couple times after that, and then been nothing. Yeah. And then I think it was Mike that said, "Hey, why'd you do that?" And I said, I have to establish my presence too. Just if you're just too quiet there, then they're gonna wonder what's going on. All that, but you can't be yelling like, "Hey," and trying to mimic them. You just have to establish your own voice. Man is here,
According to other eyewitnesses there, you actually gave him a couple Bigfoot grunts and then yelled something at him, like,
yeah,
"I'm going to boil you underground," or something along those lines.
Well, that's because, we'll keep it at that.
Well, whatever it was, you terrified him and it worked because they shut the hell up. Now, Kevin's side of the story is that he was actually in the tent trying to take meds and stuff, and he thought there was somebody that was making Bigfoot calls trying to call him in. And just like the day before when somebody was wood knocking, he got mad. He got up out of the tent to go yell at whoever it was. And when he came walking up, he realized there wasn't anybody on the camp, and it was coming from the woods on the ridge line up there across the river. And he said he walked up to you and he said, "Is that what I think it is?" And you said, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's like afternoon." And you said, "I know."
Yeah. Yeah, you hear these all the time around your house, and yeah. You just kind of like, it's just second nature, Afterwards, you'd be scared if they're, looking at you through the window. But, it's sometimes, I kind of, like I said, I gaff it off, just kind of like think, nothing of it.
Oh, we all know that they do weird mimicry and stuff. Unfortunately for us, when Galen was walking the dog down the road and this thing was making all the racket, he recorded some of it. So let's check it out right now.
A bunch of yelling in the background. Can't tell what it is. Sounds deeper than coyotes sometimes.
That was pretty weird. So, yeah, it was weird enough to even catch his attention and go, "What the bleep is making this noise? I should record it." So we got recording there. But that isn't the end of this. No, this isn't all that happened while I was gone. The next thing that happened while I was gone is I came back and you guys had found hair.
Yeah. I was, everybody was, just combing the area and all of that. And I was standing on the bank at the river, and I thought, I'd go up to, there's like a little, what do you call it, wood pile that, raging rivers had formed.
Yeah, sort of a log jam like you'd get in the spring when the flow was really high, it was shoving everything together. It almost made like a bridge you could get across the river on in a way.
Yeah. But then again, it was like kind of neatly stacked in such a way where it's kind of like leaning under each other. And
the other dead giveaway was the about a dozen sticks that were sticking up out of it that were all piled neatly together that couldn't have happened naturally.
And also there was like the grill looking thing that was on top, just placing real small parts. Yeah. That one, it caught my eye, so I made my way down that by the river and, hopped some rocks and got to it. First thing I saw was hair. I was looking at it, and then the other guys, they were out there and said, "Hey, come on over. You see this?" And then Kevin immediately got a plastic and started, getting some samples. And I started looking at it. The hair just kept going underneath, all the way, underneath all that big pile. And I looked around, and I don't know. It's just one small little bone that I seen, and I wasn't too sure on it, so I didn't say nothing about it. So I just left it at that, kind of like maybe from an elbow to the forearm. So I think that's the part where, it has the two bones in it, the forearm.
Yeah.
And that's what I seen way tucked underneath. And I thought I got out of there, it's just, hey, this is a burial or something happened tragically right here. So I got out of there and I told them other guys, it's best you leave it alone. So that's when they, all dispersed from there.
Yeah, when we pulled up, you guys were all gathered around there. That was right when we showed back up again.
Uh-huh.
And we're wondering what was going on. So then after that, did you guys actually go out and run around the woods at all that day, or that was pretty much it? We just kind of set up camp, right?
Yeah, just set up camp and just
Yeah. Then Mike showed up with his family and all the kids and everything.
yeah.
And you went and sat down away from the campfire. Between where you were and the campfire was, there was a truck, the Helena Boys' big giant white truck, and you were sort of down the embankment toward the river from that, so away from the firelight. And you were sitting down there talking to Shane, and you guys were both watching stuff running around in the shadows.
Oh yeah. Well, I was looking down, way down where the river was meandering. About maybe 500 feet away from us. I was looking down there, because I could, if something crossed the river, I could see it. That's what I was thinking under the, all the dim light from the moon.
Yeah.
And I was looking down there, and then Shane, brought it up to me, and I was like, "Hey, I don't. Isn't there like a twinkle of light or spark or something in those trees?" He says. And I said, "Yeah, And then he asked me, is it for your encounters, have you, how much light do you see or glowing eyes or something like that?" I said, "No. I only see the glowing eyes from the dog man, the werewolf. I only see that from them, not the Hosteen. The Hosteen will just look at you, and if the light catches their eye, yeah, they'll light up. But then naturally, when you're looking at them, it's just the twinkle in their eye. That's about it." I said, and
you get a little bit of a sparkle off of the gloss sheen off of their eye, and that's about all.
yeah, yeah. So we were talking about it, and we kept looking over there, and then all of a sudden the or that, like he said, or is it just my eyes playing tricks on me? He says, and I started looking that way, and we were just talking about my cultural background and all of that, and we were really deep in conversation. That's when I seen the little sparkle in the eyes, and it kept moving downwards, and first it was like right across where the campfire was, and it started to go downwards all the way down to where I had my eyes at first, and it kept going down, and I kept telling him, look right there, the sparkles are just going down that way, the glistening of the eyes. So we kept looking at it, and they crossed way down below where I knew that they were going to cross. And it was way far away, about 500 feet from where the campfire was. And that's when he started, saying, "Is it just my eyes, or there's a shadow right there, like that." So for me, I don't much respect to Shane or anything in his experiences and his encounters, but for me, I don't take second chances, or I don't second guess it. If something moves as a shadow, or I see something that's not, human or dog or bear or anything like that, or just a big man just walking right there, then I don't second guess it. I know what it is. And so I told him, "Yeah, they're right there." I said, "They crossed the river down there." And that's we both saw it. And that's what he was saying, is that one crossing the river or something like that? He said, or on the embankment. And I said, "Yeah, that's what I was looking at." And we were both sitting that way, straight towards that way, and we were looking.
Yeah,
at
you
it.
guys were faced just the right way. In order to sneak across the river downstream from camp, they had to go that exact direction. You guys were just happened to be sitting there looking while you're talking.
Yeah, and then here they crossed the river right there, and the river was shallow down there too, and up where we had our camp, it was like 2 feet shallow too, but it's much deeper than down there. and that one was just running water. And then they came back up along the embankment real slowly, and we kept looking at it, and we kept telling each other, there's the spark, that listening in the eyes of sparkle, and all of that. And then we kept watching the sky too. I seen this whatever it was, UFO or something like that, that's up in the air, and I told him about that, and gave our eyes a rest, looking through the trees, and we started looking upwards. There's this red streak kind of just moseying on in the sky, and we looked at that one, and we could look back down to where we were looking. They weren't down there no more. They were up close. And just then Mike came over, and he was looking for woods, and he found a real big log, and he took it, put it over his shoulder, and then he kept looking back, and he says, I just feel like somebody's looking at me right here, he says. And it was just no more than about 20 feet. That's where it was standing. And we kept looking at it, me and Shane. And I told him, hey, there's one right there, right behind you. And so he just, calmly walked back out to where the fire was.
Yeah, dragging a huge log with him, I might add. But
yeah.
The point here is there's your third confirmation. He didn't know what you guys were looking at. You didn't say anything to him. He walked over, grabbed this log, turned around, and went, why do I feel like something's watching me?
Yeah. Yeah, it was no more than about 20 feet from where Mike was.
God.
So we just looked at it, but it didn't come any further, any closer. It just stood from there.
Wanted to see what we were up to.
Yeah, and I bet you it was just wanting to know why there's two figures in the dark also. So it could see us, looking at it, and then come in to investigate. And actually, there was, more than one. One was still way down there, and I'd say the bold one was the one that came in, and we just looked at it, and then didn't cause no alarm. Didn't want to alarm them.
Yeah.
Also. So we just kept on talking. I told him a whole bunch of, I talked his ear off.
Yeah. So as far as I know, nothing else that anybody has told me about has happened from that part of the night until the next day, other than it got really cold and we finally went to sleep.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's just nothing happened. They're just too quiet.
Yeah.
Even though there's signs of them.
Yeah, if they were creeping around, we didn't hear them. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we didn't hear them.